I thought my husband was pranking me, and I can't get over the guilt. Back in July, my husband had a serious workplace injury. He almost died. Every medical professional has told him that it's a 1 in a million that he didn't die. The thing is, he called me when it happened. He was laying on the floor at work having coworkers put pressure on his wounds, and he called me to tell me what had happened, and that an ambulance was being called. And I thought he was pranking me. I repeated what he told me in a very disbelieving time, and then asked some clarifying questions, also in a disbelieving tone. When I finally realized he was not joking, I jumped to being worried and rushed to the hospital to be by his side. But every time I think about it, I feel so guilty and terrible. He called me. That was his first thought, to call his wife and hear her voice, and I didn't believe him. I'm waiting to hear back from a therapist, which I know I need. His wound opened up while I was in his hospital room with him, and I had to hold pressure on that wound until the trauma team got there, but I just feel so awful. Update. Just to answer some questions that came up a lot. 1. We talked after I posted this, and he hadn't realized it was bothering me at all. It hadn't bothered him in the slightest, and he admitted he probably would have reacted the same way had he been in my shoes. 2. I will be seeing a therapist, because there's a lot of trauma that went on here, not just him almost dying, but me having to see my big, strong husband suddenly be so vulnerable, and me being suddenly thrust into a caretaker role at the age of 30. 3. Hubby is already seeing a therapist. Part of the reason I haven't seen someone yet is because I focused on getting him someone first. 4. To explain a bit more why I may have thought it was a joke. My husband works at a gun club in Canada. Safety protocols are the #1 priority, and if people aren't being safe, they're asked to leave. Sometimes they even can have their membership revoked. When he called me, he sounded very calm, as though he was calling me to ask what was for dinner. His exact words were, "Hey honey, I just wanted to call you to let you know that there was a bit of an incident at work today, and I kinda got shot." Who calls their wife and calmly tells them they kinda got shot? I very incredulously asked, "Oh, you got shot?" And he replied, "Yeah." At that point I asked, "With a real gun?" Because at this point, I thought he was going to laugh and say, "No, it was a paintball gun." That how do you get paint out of clothing? He instead said, "Yeah." It was at that point that I realized he was serious, and I went into serious mode, asking where he'd been shot. He told me, "My leg. They're calling an ambulance just to be safe." I then assumed it had grazed him. I asked him to please let me know where they were taking him, told him I assumed it would be the closest hospital that was about 10 minutes from his work. It was only when I got to his work and was told that they'd actually taken him to the large regional trauma hospital 30 to 40 minutes away that I realized it might be more serious. It was a through and through. The path the bullet took to miss every artery and the bone was apparently a 1 in a million chance.